My name is Bassanio Peters, and I'm the Chief Content Ambassador for SolidProfessor. I'm excited that you guys are joining us today. I was on mute. Nick, are you there with us right now?
Yes, I am.
All right. So once again, thanks everybody for joining. Today we're talking about an exciting new course we just released called Meshmixer. And it's all part of our initiative to become an all-encompassing engineering resource for CAD designers and engineers. And as a part of this mission, it really all starts with you. It starts with our customers, it starts with our users, and we help prioritize what courses we're going to add to our library based off your needs. And a few recent additions are the MATLAB course. We've actually released a few Fusion updates. Fusion 360 is continuing to add functionality. We've released a few updates to that course as well. And a few new additions that will be coming out relatively soon are Giraffe Site and MATLAB, so be on the lookout for the webinar invitation for those. Today, once again, though, we're here to talk about Meshmixer with our esteemed author, Nick Klosky. Nick is actually the co-founder of Honeypoint 3D. They're an award-winning 3D printing and rapid prototyping company, and I'll actually let Nick tell a little bit more about his background and share with you why he was excited to create this course.
Great, thanks so much. Yeah, and welcome everybody. Yeah, so my name is Nick Klosky. I am the co-founder of Honeypoint 3D. We are in the San Francisco Bay Area. We actually started our life as a retail 3D printing shop where next door you could get flowers, the other side you could get your dry cleaning done, and then in the middle you could get your rapid prototyping and 3D printing done. That was a great business. It was profitable, but everybody who came into our store wanted education. And so we kind of reformulated our company to offer rapid prototyping and education. We came out with a Kickstarter for 3D printing training in 2015 that was in the top 10% of Kickstarters in 2015, and that is the class that you are looking at today. It's very successful. We've added to it as Meshmixer grew, and I'm just really, really passionate and happy to bring 3D printing to new crowds, whether that's consumers or existing CAD professionals that might not know about the capabilities in mesh workspaces. So thanks.
Thanks for that, Nick. Once again, my name is Bassanio. Tell a little bit about my background. I'm here at SolidProfessor and what I do. I'm the Chief Content Ambassador here, and my role is to identify, first of all, based on our customer needs, what new tools you'd like to see added to the library, and then I go out and speak to the top content authors and subject matter experts to help us create and add these tools to our library. We're very familiar, most people are familiar with our SolidWorks expertise and courses, and we're trying to expand the content that's available in our library rapidly. So we rely on the expertise from people like Nick and other authors to be able to create amazing courses for us. So be on the lookout. We are rapidly expanding our library, and that's part of my role here at SolidProfessor. So we're constantly looking for new great authors. So, Nick, why don't you just tell me really quickly, though, what is Meshmixer in general?
Yeah, so Meshmixer deals with 3D modeling, but it deals with it with polygonal meshes, whereas CAD tools like SolidWorks or Inventor or Fusion kind of are all mathematical equations, and the models are as simple as they possibly can be. Meshmixer revels in models that are hundreds of thousands or millions of faces. So at its very core, it deals with very, very dense meshes, which opens up a lot of cool things we'll be showing you today.
Awesome. And then, I mean, what industries primarily would use or get benefit out of the Meshmixer tool?
Yeah, well, a direct hit for Meshmixer is any industry that deals with physical objects, and especially physical objects that are scanned. A really direct hit would be dental. We have a lot of dentists using Meshmixers because they take scans of the insides of people's mouths to create surgical guides, things like that. In a lot of CAD tools, there are some tools for working with meshes, but they're not that advanced. Meshmixer is the ideal complement to the kind of small mesh tools that exist in other places.
Awesome. That's great. What would you say is your favorite feature in the Meshmixer program that you're actually teaching in our course?
Yeah, well, so my favorite, I mean, it's not that obscure, but if you have an existing model, you can, it's called attraction. You can kind of suck another model onto the existing 3D model and make a very kind of a skin-tight match to it. And that's, again, used for surgical guides, for recreation of objects. You could scan your hand and make a plate that goes exactly over your hand for going in like a play or something like that. You can use existing models and make really, really kind of skin-tight things to it. It's very cool.
Awesome. Sounds great. Well, let's actually go into some of what's in the course. So just for the audience, we have an Intro to Meshmixer course, a Meshmixer Essentials course, working with 3D scans in Meshmixer, creating models from photos, and then Meshmixer for kids. So this is a very extensive library that Nick has created for our community, and I just want to give Nick a moment to talk about how he came up with the course. Obviously, you heard the history with the Kickstarter program, but Nick, just tell us a little bit about the structure and how people can leverage, how people should best leverage these courses that are new to our library.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've worked with SolidProfessor to come up with an architecture that really does make sense. We have an Intro to Meshmixer, which goes into a kind of understanding how the program works. When you start Meshmixer, there's some tools down the left-hand side. We go into what those tools do so that you can kind of just understand how the programmers of Meshmixer want you to use it. And then we go into the Meshmixer Essentials, which is the workflows and how to accomplish certain things with Meshmixer. So once you have kind of the base understanding of the program, then you figure out what you want to accomplish, and then there will be a Meshmixer Essential to accomplish that, whether it's working with 3D scans or freeform sculpting, or even creating support structures for 3D printing. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but there's a lot of different kind of workflow things for the essentials. And then we have specialized classes after that, kids classes, sculpting classes, and kind of the more specialized content that not everybody wants, but the people that really do want it should be treated appropriately and have a specific class for it.
Awesome. That's great, Nick. Thank you for sharing. So yeah, I guess right now I want to just talk about some of the key benefits and features, but most importantly, I mean, tell me, Nick, what do you think that other CAD users will find most valuable in this course? And I guess, tell us some of your other favorite features. You highlighted one, but, spend a little bit of time and tell us what people can expect in this course, and, why you think that people that are potentially other CAD should definitely take a look at this Meshmixer course.
Sure. Yeah, we work with a lot of people that come from a traditional CAD background, like SolidWorks and all of that, and then we show them these mesh tools. And it's a little bit scary, but our job is to make that accessible, because in the parametric world, in the CAD world, you can just change a number and then your design will update. That doesn't happen in Meshmixer. Meshmixer is more about kind of free-form creation. And so what you can do is you can take a CAD model from SolidWorks or any of the other ones out there and bring it into Fusion and start sculpting with it. So that's one thing that we see a lot of people using is you can create shapes and different kind of design studies inside of Meshmixer to see how different shapes would work. And do that in a very, very fast way. And then once you kind of understand how different shapes are taking form, you can use that knowledge and just bring it back into SolidWorks or your other CAD tool, and then go from there. So this is a great place to do kind of a design study type of thing. Which brings us to the complexity aspect of this. The models that you create in Meshmixer are sometimes millions of polygons, and Meshmixer works with that extremely smoothly. Meshmixer loves detail. If you work with 3D scans, which I do, I have a couple of professional 3D scanners, I use Meshmixer every single time with those 3D scans to clean them up, to evaluate them, sometimes to reduce them so that I can bring them into a CAD program if I need to. So very, very good for working with very, very fine details that exist in 3D scans. And then to talk about the ability of Meshmixer, Meshmixer is, to my knowledge, pretty much unique in the 3D modeling world. It sits half in the physical world and half in the digital. You can sculpt with digital clay. You can make really, really interesting shapes. You can do booleans very, very easily, even with complex meshes, which is, adding them or subtracting them. But if you're 3D printing, there's also a whole section of Meshmixer that evaluates models for 3D printing so that you can create support structures that are organic, that kind of look like the branches of a tree. And I know that in my own 3D printing experience, models that take 5 hours with traditional support structures can be brought down to maybe about 3 hours with the support structures from Meshmixer. So a lot of really, really good benefits that really don't exist in any other program.
Awesome. That's great. And we just asked the poll question of all of our users, so we'll wait to get some response and some feedback on that, and then we'll actually move on to showing a portion of one of the videos that Nick has created for our library. So I urge you to go ahead and fill out this poll question, which is basically, have you ever had the need to clean up some geometry, either a 3D for 3D scanning or for 3D printing is the basic premise of the question.
And while you fill that out, we go into, in the course, how to create 3D scans for free, essentially with just a cell phone photo camera on a cell phone. We go into that in the class, so you may answer yes to this if you plan on using that in the future.
Yeah, that's an awesome feature. I remember when you told me that, I was pretty amazed. That's a pretty cool feature for a lot of various different reasons. All right, so we're going to close this poll out. We got about 75% of people who have voted, so thank you for that. And we'll close this poll out and continue the presentation. So at this point, we're going to dive into playing one of the videos. So I'm going to actually launch the LMS here, see if I'm still logged in. And as you explore the SolidProfessor library, let's just go back to Basic Library, you can see that our Autodesk Meshmixer course is here. I love the courses so much, I've saved them and bookmarked this course and recently viewed. But we'll go ahead and launch this course, one of the videos from this course, which is using CAD models in Meshmixer, and the particular issue is fixing faces. So I'm going to go ahead and launch this video, and we'll be back here shortly.
Okay, so here's one gotcha when you want to go from parametric CAD modeling into Meshmixer. I modeled something here in Fusion 360, the parametric program, just kind of like a little pedestal or maybe a little awards statue, and I might want to put something organic on the top. So I want to bring this into Meshmixer and start working with it. So this is great. I go into bodies here and export as STL. And I'm going to send it directly into Meshmixer, so I click OK. So after a second, Meshmixer comes up, and we get the object right here. So good enough. We start going into the Sculpt tool, maybe with a draw brush, get a nice big, and start working, and the entire model just starts to blow up the moment we touch it. It didn't blow up as much here, but I'll tell you why. I'm going to undo this. So this model, if I hit the W key for wireframe, you can see that, and maybe a little bit dark. So I'll go in. When your model goes dark like this, sometimes you have your object not selected. So you go up to Show Objects Browser and make sure that your object is selected. So you can see up here that we do have a lot of triangles. And down here we have no triangles. And because Meshmixer wants to work with a lot of triangles, when you hit it with a tool like the Sculpt tool, I'll turn flow off, even at a low strength, it only has 2 triangles to work with. So it starts to do weird things. It changed the entire 3 faces of the bottom. Because it only has 2 triangles, and because I have refinement turned on, it starts to add them. But adding more triangles when you only have 2 to start with ends up making huge changes to your mesh. If we try to do this up here, the triangles are a little bit more dense, but even up here, you start to get weirdness happening because if I undo this, these triangles go all the way from this side all the way down here. Even though they're skinny like this, they encompass the entire face. So trying to make a change to one triangle ends up changing your entire face like this. And you see this a lot in models that you download from online websites that are created in parametric CAD software. So there's a very, very simple trick to get around this. You need more density inside of this. I'm going to click on Select and hit Control-A to select everything, or Command-A on a Mac. Everything is selected. We'll go up here to Edit, to Remesh, and you want to choose Linear Subdivision. And what Linear Subdivision will do is it divides the triangles that are already there into smaller triangles. So it doesn't change the shape at all. It just adds more density inside. So you're still going to end up with triangles, but your shape isn't changed. If you did something like relative density or adaptive density, even if it's very, very turned up, you end up with kind of weirdness here. So what we're going to do is go to Linear Subdivision and turn it up as high as it will go. And what this will do is, remember, these triangles went from this side to this side. Now you see that you have a band here, a band here, a band here. You have a lot more triangles to work with that don't go from face to face. So I'm going to click Accept and Clear Selection. So now we have all of these triangles here. You still have some discrepancies. You have this being very, very dense here and not here. But if we click on the Sculpt tool, we have a little bit more of a chance for the Sculpt tool to have a known effect. You know, obviously this is maybe smoothing out these hard edges a little bit more than you might want, but it's not destroying the entire mesh like it did before. Now I'm going to undo that. And actually I'm going to undo all the way back to where it was to start off with. So one other trick you can do, if this is something that you want to keep, and this is something that you want to keep, but you want to make the subdivision only happen on certain surfaces, there's a couple ways to do it. If these are very easy like this, you can always go into the Select tool, make your brush small, and then just click and drag to select only these meshes and the 2 bottom ones, and then run the Remesh tool with Linear Subdivision. So it ran a lot faster, and we're not touching the top of the mesh at all. But if your entire object you want to remesh in a more kind of known fashion, you can also go up here to Edit to generate face groups. So what this will do is it will split based on angle threshold. If we turn it down, everything becomes its own face group, but we don't want that. We want to turn this up so that all of these contiguous areas are all their own face group. I'm going to turn this down until we get a little bit better result right here. And now we have these as all face groups. So I can go into Select and then just double click on this, and it will select that entire face group. Or if I go into Select and double click on this green, it will select just that face group. So that Edit Generate Face Groups command can be very good to segregate your mesh, and now I can go in and just work on individual areas to subdivide them if I want. So that's what happens sometimes when you bring in parametric CAD models into Meshmixer. You need to actually add complexity before you can successfully work with them. In there, when you start using Meshmixer,
All right, everyone. Thank you for letting us play through that video. I apologize on the audio. I understand that I got a few messages that the audio wasn't exactly clear, so we turned the volume up as best we could. So if you didn't have a clear depiction, this is a great opportunity for you to go back into the Meshmixer library and actually watch the courses yourself. So now it's your turn. Go ahead and go learn something new. Once again, this is exciting times for us. We're continuously adding new content to our platform based, once again, on our customers' demands to really just help you guys design with confidence. So get out and try something new. Dive into our Meshmixer course. And Nick, thank you again for taking the time today. I'm going to send out another quick poll question that you may have, which is, once again, what other areas of interest you have. We selected a few tools here for the actual poll question, a few things that are on our product roadmap per se. So, you know, just share with us what other things you would like to learn, what other tools would you like to learn here in this poll question. And if your selection is other, I will definitely follow up and give you an opportunity to share that information with us, because once again, our goal is to become an all-encompassing engineering resource for our users, but it's really predicated and driven off of your requests, your needs as our customers, as our valued customers. So I'll give a moment for this poll to close. And Nick, anything else you'd like to add? I think this is an awesome addition to our library, provides a lot of value, but anything else you'd like to add or share while the poll is going in?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Just a couple things is if you're a Fusion 360 user, the very latest version of Fusion 360 actually has a mesh workspace in it, and that is about 1/20th of Meshmixer. It's the same code base, it's the same tools, a little bit different name, but you're going to start seeing these tools kind of encroach into other Autodesk products. So learning Meshmixer will give you a lot of really good tools that are going to start appearing in other places. So that's one really good thing. The other thing is that Meshmixer is free software, so you know, that may mean something to you or may not, but it is software that you can just immediately go download and start to use. It's just it's not documented very well, so that's why a training class like this is very good, because it gives you the information you need to use this free software to good effect.
Awesome. I'll give another 30 seconds or so for people to question, which is what other areas you would be interested in, what other courses would you like to see added to our library, and these were selected for these poll questions because they're actually as a part of our product roadmap and courses we are interested in pursuing and or actively looking at. Well, we'll go ahead and close this poll out, and it looks like, share the polls with everyone. Looks like other is a high selection, but we also have people interested in CATIA, ANSYS, and Creo, and NX at 9%. So definitely some interest here. So once again, thank you for taking the time for the poll. And I guess the next thing, we will open it up for Q&A. You know, if you have any questions for our author, Nick, you know, feel free to chime away in the questions window. And it looks like we have a few here, and we'll try and answer as many as we can. Okay, so Nick, where can you download Meshmixer?
It's very easy. You just go to meshmixer.com, and very easy. It's a free download. It's for Windows and Mac, and there is a beta version which is very stable for Linux. So you're covered everywhere. Meshmixer.com.
Awesome. Okay, here's another really good question. I have a scan of a model of an object in an .obj file. Can I use Meshmixer to make it as a solid model using Meshmixer? So basically they want to be able to make it a solid model, but it's an OBJ file. Is that possible, Nick?
Absolutely. Yeah, Meshmixer opens, it has a native file, .mix. It'll open .stls, .objs, VRML. And the very, very nice thing is that if you bring in an OBJ a scan that has color information, either per vertex color or even a texture map, when you're working in Meshmixer, many of the tools will automatically update the texture map, so it will actually preserve colors as you're doing different changes and things like that. That was something that was just recently added into Meshmixer, so I haven't seen very many other tools preserve the color information. So yes, OBJ is totally fine. If you want to make it solid inside of Meshmixer, there's lots of very powerful tools that allow you to close holes, to heal your mesh, remesh it, all of that. If you're talking about making it a solid model in terms of a solid modeling program, there are ways of converting models from 3 to 4 triangles, or a 3-sided polygon to a 4-sided polygon, and I go into a bit of that in the class as well.
Awesome. All right. Are there any other questions? If there are, please add them to the question section and we'll be able to get to them. I know we went a little bit over, but once again, I really appreciate you guys spending part of your day with us. This is exciting times for us. And let's see. Oh, we got another great question. We have a lot of issues losing dimensional accuracy on through holes, etc., when modifying a SolidWorks part in Meshmixer. Are there any suggestions you have, Nick?
Yeah, so that is one of the issues. So not really an issue, but in Meshmixer, it's you have to be a little bit more careful when you want to make very specific movements in it. Meshmixer is not very good at mechanical engineering. So if you do want to make exact movements, you do need to make sure that you're not using a tool that is meant for more sculpting movements. But with that said, you can turn on what's called snapping, right, and set a snap distance to an increment to 1 millimeter or something like that, and be very careful about how many snaps you do. So that's one way of doing it. If you want to affect a model and move it a certain amount of distance with some of the sculpting tools, you can set up a plane and attract to that plane, and if the plane is 7.5 millimeters away at a 45-degree angle, it'll suck the model to that. But it's not the same as the parametricness of SolidWorks, for example. So snapping, I would look at the tools in the class on setting the snapping increment, and that's probably the best you're going to do with Meshmixer for exact movements.
Awesome. Another great question is basically, can Meshmixer create meshes out of point cloud data, Nick?
Well, so you can import PLY data, but it will not create a mesh from it. There is another piece of software out there called Meshlab, which is free and incredibly complex and also very not well documented. But Meshlab will create a mesh from a point cloud. And there are things you can look at on the internet for that, and then import it into Meshmixer. But Meshmixer won't do the point cloud directly.
Awesome. I think we got time for maybe a question or two. Thank you for everybody that's hung on the webinar for us to listen into these awesome questions our users are coming up with, so thank you for those. And then just one last piece of information as we wait for additional questions. One of the poll questions, what other areas you guys would potentially be interested in users, and others seem to be very popular. So if you have a pen and paper, take down my email, which is bpeters@solidprofessor.com. and send me an email, and we'd love to learn more about what other tools you'd potentially be interested in learning. And as we're rapidly expanding our library, once again, this is really predicated off your needs. So once again, we really, really appreciate your time today, and we will go ahead and close out the webinar. Thanks again, and go out and learn something new.